Hi, how are you?
Hi, Tom. I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm just fine.
That's very good. You're from New York, and I'm also from New York too, so I'm really excited about the interview.
Oh, that's great. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I grew up in Long Island, so are you in the city right now?
I am.
Oh, that's
I am.
perfect. Well, first I want to say thank you for doing the interview. I know it's been a long, long time since the geyser was created, so I really appreciate it.
No, it's a pleasure.
Yes. So I guess we'll start things off with how did you get started in creating and designing all of your machines and stuff? Did you always wanted to do that?
Oh, I, at some point, and I guess it was when I was in college. I thought I probably wanted to be a theatrical designer, and I came to New York to do theater, and I did that for about 15 years. And then in the late '80s, early '90s, I started to get some theme park work. Um,
Mm-hmm.
a little ride at Playland, actually, if you know that, on Long Island Sound in
Yes.
Connecticut. No, in New York, sorry, in Rye. And and then the Slime Geyser came up, and that was an opportunity with a design firm called DeMartin, Morona, Cranston and Downs, or DMCD.
Oh,
And I worked with them on it. They basically subbed that to me, and they produced the geyser, but I did the design and carried it forward. So
yeah. So,
it was,
so when you heard of the news about the slime geyser in the studios, were you excited? How did you react about it?
I was really excited about it. We met with Jerry Laybourne, who was the
Yeah.
president of the network at that time, and she and the creative director were just very excited about doing this, and they were sort of scratching their heads because they hadn't been able to figure out how to make this thing,
Mm-hmm.
and and so kind of bit at the opportunity. It was really fun. I was very excited.
How long did it take to create it?
I guess we were on a pretty short time schedule, as I recall. I think it was maybe about 8 or 9 months, start to finish, and developed the concept in a couple of weeks. Just sort of scribbling around, looking up sort of crazy devices, and I was thinking about a sort of combination between something with a lot of plumbing and something that looked like a NASA spacecraft. And
Mm-hmm.
so we sort of settled on this white and chrome personality for it,
Yeah.
and of course it, it got pretty green over the years.
Oh, of
Actually built a
course.
sprinkler system into it so that it could spray itself
Yeah.
and clean itself.
So it took 8 to 9 months finish in the year of 1990, or did it start before that year?
So it finished. It, my guess is it started at in I'm trying to remember because I think it
October,
opened
it
in
was
this.
when it was
Yeah,
open.
that's right. It opened in October, so it would have started either very late the year before, or
Mm-hmm.
my recollection is we were into it early in the winter, and we
Yeah.
started construction. I think right at the beginning of the summer.
Yeah.
It
So
moved really quickly.
yeah. So did you always know that it would be late or a couple months late before the studios and Universal Studios open?
Um, we had an opening date that was set right from the beginning, and it was timed to the way the Universal was opening, and I don't remember the exact sequence, but
Mm-hmm.
we the network really had a big investment in getting open on a particular day, and so that was the day we chose, and that's the day we hit. It never really changed after that.
Yeah. One of the things recognized about the geyser was the 10-minute clock at the top. Was that your idea as well to put that on top of it?
Yeah, yeah. we wanted to have a countdown so that people would know that it was coming. And at first it was variable, and then I think it settled into a pretty regular time. One of the funniest things about that is we put an anemometer on it because we figured people would probably sue if they got covered with slime on a windy day. And so the thing had an automatic shut-off if the wind went past a certain point. And on the first day, I remember the funniest sight I saw was a guy holding his small child up in the slime as it was pouring over the kid. I thought, well, maybe we didn't need the anemometer after all.
Oh gosh, yeah. I think every kid's dream was to get slimed in front of that machine.
Well, the slime was it was funny. There was a pigment company in Orlando that developed the actual material. And we have two kinds of, actually there were three kinds of slime in the geyser. One of them was the stuff that came out the spout, and that's just water. And it had a pigment suspended in it that's non-toxic and has no binder, so it'll just wash out of your clothes. Then there was what we called the slime blending manifold, which was the crazy thing that spat slime out over the door. And that actually had a place where you could somebody could come out from inside the building and pull a lever and gather a bucket of slime. And that slime was oatmeal slime. That was sitting in a 50-gallon pressurized tank inside the geyser, and it would come out of there. And then the third kind of slime was an oil slime, which was inside the so-called hydrobubbler gas exchanger, which belched and made big bubbles. And that was actually mineral oil. So three slimes, one geyser. And that was so it wouldn't evaporate.
Oh gosh, it's funny because a lot of people on the internet say that the slime was really just water mixed with green dye. So it's really interesting that there was 3 slimes used over the years. Or was that?
Yeah, and these pigment guys were really good. They came up with a powdered pigment that they could mix reliably and was completely non-toxic but wouldn't get in your clothes. It was a clever solution. They were really good.
Yeah, I assume, but really. Were you ever slimed yourself? I have to ask that.
Actually, that's an interesting question. No, I was never slimed. That's a part of my life I never actually experienced. I did sort of get slimed under the slime blending manifold because it was designed to randomly. We had designed a design flaw into it. When you stood underneath it to actually pull the lever and get the slime into the bucket, you would get slimed. So yes, actually, there I got slimed. I used to call that a slight design flaw.
Slight? How did it feel, though?
It was pretty good.
Pretty good, yeah.
Yeah.
It tastes pretty good. I've tasted it before. Cause,
did you hear where slime came from?
Slime?
Where it started?
I think it started like a home product, was it? Something that kids could take home? That's how it started?
The creative, I think he was a creative director. I can't remember his name right now. He was a young guy who worked at Nickelodeon, and he was there at the beginning, and he said that they had done a pilot of You Can't Do That on TV.
Yeah.
And it was done in Toronto, and they were going to dump a bucket of stuff on the heads of people who said, I don't know. And it was part of another show, and it was just a sketch that they were doing. But they didn't have time in that segment. It was live TV. They didn't have time that week, so they had collected a bucket of basically leftovers from the cafe at the studio. And so next week they were going to do it, and when they started to do it the next week, they realized that the bucket had been sitting there, but it was like turning green.
Yeah.
But they used it anyway. And he said that was the first bucket of slime. It really was slimy.
Yeah, I think You Can't Do That on Television was really the show that put Nickelodeon on the map, and the slime, that's where it came from. So,
Yeah,
of course, and Double Dare followed up right after the trademark
yes,
slime. Yeah.
that's right.
Did you ever get to go inside Nick's studios?
Sure.
Okay. How was it large? Were you just amazed by the building and how large it looked and nicely looked when you first
Yeah, I
stepped
mean,
inside?
it was a great experience, and I mean, the first time I saw it, it was a big empty building because we were starting construction about the same time they were. But it was a beautiful studio, and one of the reasons they went down there was just that they could, have these fantastic facilities and also have them open to the public. Because
Yeah.
when they were shooting in New York, they didn't have anything like that. It
No,
was
not at
great.
all. It was a lot of space that was used in the Universal backlot area, so it really helped for Orlando film production. So that's why.
Yeah, it did. I mean, it was interesting when they were starting that theme park. It was and that's when you could build a theme park for only $1 billion. About what that cost. And I think the first time I was there, it was just this enormous
Did you ever get to go?
amount of mud and half-finished buildings, and it was pretty cool to see the whole place come together. A lot of really talented people working there.
Yeah, that's interesting. The staff, I want to ask you that. How were everyone like who worked there? I'm sure they were brilliant.
Yeah, it was a really great group of people because it was they bridged from being kind of hyper creative to being solely focused on construction, and yet everybody was just they were really professional and really excited about what they were doing, and it was a great organization that was putting it together, and we had a lot of fun. I mean, everybody worked their butts off because it was the deadline was tight, and they had I mean, we were a tiny, tiny part of one part of the park, but it was a massive project, and
Mm.
they really pulled it off. The guys that I was working with were also there were teams that were working on various parts of the park, and so the guys who were working on Nickelodeon were also working on Back to the Future, the ride, and
Yeah,
so we'd go over there and get to play and see that in progress all along the way.
yeah.
And it was when cell phones were just coming out, so all of these guys were carrying cell phones, which was really impressive. But they were these big battery powered things that were on a shoulder strap, and they had like a telephone handset with a coiled cord on it. So they were carrying 8 pound, 10 pound phones on their shoulders that the size of a cinder block. It was hilarious.
I'm sure they must have got a lot of attention in the park then.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely. It was a great novelty, but
yeah,
it's amazing how quickly things changed.
definitely. It's interesting you brought up Back to the Future because I wanted to ask you, did you ever get to go on any of the rides at Universal?
Yeah, I think I did most of them there. I mean, I loved that ride. It was really, really fun, and
Yeah,
I think I probably went on a dozen or more times when it was in construction.
yeah. It's
San
not there
Francisco.
anymore either, the ride though.
Say again?
The ride Back to the Future's not there anymore though.
Oh my God! Wow.
Yeah.
I wonder if they turned it into some. Did they turn it into something else, or is it?
Yeah,
Did
now
they take it
it's
down?
yeah, it's now the Simpsons ride.
Oh yeah, that'll be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty novel at that time because they were using the dome theater with the ride systems, and most of the simulators at that
Mhm.
time were cabinet simulators, so you were looking at small pictures. So that was really an expansion of what was possible. And of course, they were still doing it in film at that time. It was 70 millimeter film when it opened.
Yeah, the film, yeah, it was really back then Orlando was known as Hollywood East and all of that stuff, and it was a pretty big deal to be a part of that and be working there at the time, I'd say.
Yeah, it was fun. It was, and this project was just this kind of little maraschino cherry on the sundae. It was It
Mm.
was. I have said in the past that of all the projects that I will ever do, this is probably slime is probably what I'll be remembered for. But it was enormously fun because it was just this dumb machine, and the dumber we made it, the better it got. And it had these kind of quirky qualities, and then late in the game, I had to come up with a backstory for it because they liked it so much. They wanted to put some signs around it, like museum signs that would show how it worked. So I had to invent all the names for the different things and try to figure out what they actually did. It was a machine that was designed before its functionality was known.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it should. I wish it was a museum. Somebody could, like, I wish it was a museum right now. The guys are, well, a drawing attraction of it. That'd be good.
Yeah, I'd actually love to know what happened to it because I
Oh,
only
you
heard
don't
after the
know?
fact that it had been taken out.
Yeah, it was a sad day. I wanted to ask you about being in Orlando. How long did you stay there?
I would just make day trips down most of the time, or stay for a couple of days, and then before the opening, I think I was there for about 2 weeks doing the final
Oh,
tweaks and
okay.
programming.
Oh, did you like being down there in Orlando?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I always enjoyed going down there, and sometimes I would hang out and go to some of the other parks, but most of the time it was pretty much back to back working. You get off the plane, go to the park, work, 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 go
Yeah,
spend the night, work the next day, take off, head back to New York. So it was they were demanding trips. There was
yeah,
always a lot to do.
yeah,
Although the
definitely.
best thing was when we did auditions for belching,
Mhm.
because all of the sounds in the geyser were made out of human belches and
Oh,
similar bodily noises. And so for 3 days we did auditions, and people were lined up drinking cokes and walking into a sound studio and belching into a microphone. We were reviewing all of them. That for some of them would crack you up, but it was actually a completely knock your socks off clear winner out of 3 days of belching. And that was it. The bells actually don't know who it was. It's just kind of too bad, but we turned that into all kinds of sound effects, the whole series of belches from this person.
oh gosh, I would have loved to hear that.
I wish I had the original belch because it was the windows rattled. It was just this amazing sound, and I thought that's it. That's the one. And and every time I would walk by the geyser, when I would listen to it, it would just crack me up because I knew what it was.
Oh
But I
gosh.
figured, what would make kids laugh, and
Yeah,
and where should the machine sounds be coming from?
yeah.
So
I was about to say it might have scared kids as well, as well make them laugh.
yeah, well, yeah, I don't think kids got too scared there.
Oh, no.
They,
Um,
yeah.
in the studios, do you remember being anything taping live at the time? Any shows?
I don't think I ever watched any live tapings. I sort of stuck my head in a couple of times for not sorry,
Hmm.
not You Can't Do That on DVD. The other one that you mentioned,
Oh, Double Dare.
Double Dare. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think I saw that one a couple of times being done.
yeah, that was a big part of the opening day.
Yeah, it was. It was, and there were a lot of very funny speakers, including the professor from Gilligan's Island.
Yeah. Um, I wanted to ask you about the I know you mentioned in an email that you said you suffered from encephalitis one day. What happened with that?
Oh, I didn't actually get it, but they were having an
Okay.
encephalitis outbreak in Orlando, so the mosquitoes were carrying it and some people were getting sick. So they started closing the theme parks at night, and that was the week we were spending the whole night programming. So I was just slathering myself with 100% DEET, trying to keep the mosquitoes away. It was this mad thing. I'm surprised I didn't kill myself with a mosquito repellent.
Oh God.
But we were complete. It was like being completely alone in the universe because everybody else had taken off.
Yeah.
And we were programming this thing, and programming was not easy in those days. It was what they called ladder logic, which was this very slow programming, industrial programming system, because you didn't really have show controls that were made for that kind of thing at that time. They were mostly, in fact, all of them were industrial controls that came off us that were used for assembly lines. And they'd been adapted to stage machinery and to things like theme park rides.
Yeah.
So programming was really, really slow, and you'd run everything through, and then you'd have to tweak one thing, and then you'd run it through, and then tweak another thing, and you just do like one thing at a time. So we were out there all night, and swatting mosquitoes, fearing the worst, but none of us got sick.
Oh gosh, I can't even imagine because especially how hot it is in Florida, and I looked up the symptoms of it, and headache, fever, that must have been dreadful for everyone who had it, experienced it.
Yeah, I would imagine it was just awful, and we were so paranoid about getting it, and we smell. I don't think I ever got the smell of that repellent out of those clothes. I think I had to throw them away.
Oh.
It was just, we got so paranoid, and it couldn't have been hotter or stiller, and so you just felt like you were in an oven covered with chemistry.
Yeah, it's definitely a good thing that you threw the clothes out.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
what another thing I want to ask, in the studios, I don't know if you remember it, but there was a place called the GAC Kitchen where more slime was being created along with GAC and pies. Did
Yeah.
you? Yeah, I want to ask you, did you ever get to go in there?
I did go in there. I went in there early on, and we had. I don't know if they ever did what we wanted to do, which was that there would be this whole act of somebody coming out and getting slime from the geyser and then going back into the kitchen with it, because we thought it would be a great sort of like a clown act almost to entertain people. But yeah, it was fun. I mean, they one of the things they did really wonderfully was kind of create this whole idea around GAC and slime that stuff took on a life of its own, and it really was it was like this thing, and so adding the geyser just gave it another level of mythology that came out of the ground, and you could only get it in Central Florida, and it was fun to participate in that myth. And they they thought it all the way through. They improvising along the way, but they really developed it as a brand and as a fun idea.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, what do you know if the slime was different from the one in the geyser from the kitchen?
Yeah, the stuff they made in the kitchen was different. They actually used cream of wheat for that slime, and I think they did use just food coloring for that one.
Oh, so.
But yeah, the slime that was actually used on TV was different slime from that was used in the geyser. There were a lot of slimes going around there.
Oh, yeah. So the one in the kitchen was edible, basically.
Yeah, that was completely edible.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I got it. Did you ever check back in the studios and the geyser years later after it was created? Did you ever go back and visit?
I went back a couple of times to visit the geyser. I don't think I ever went back in the studio because I don't know. They had a pretty high turnover. So the creative director I worked with went away, and then Jerry Laybourne started Oxygen, as I recall.
Wow. Yeah, she did.
So she left. Yeah, maybe within a year.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that. And I spent some time with their marketing people. We were trying to develop some ideas for licensable toys and things like that. Not much came out of that, but they did the slime, obviously. But
yeah.
But they pretty much soon after it opened, we we all sent congratulatory notes around to each other, and then started drifting apart. So when I went back, there really wasn't anybody there that I knew anymore, and so I hang out with the geyser and talk to it, but I didn't go back in the studio.
Oh God. Yeah, about the when this geyser was open, I saw the picture where there was like a huge gathering around it. Was it a
Yes.
crazy day that day?
Yeah, there was a I think they had a 2 or 3 day total opening, but the geyser was opened it. They'd done a like a parachute over it, and did a bunch of speechifying, and then pulled this thing off of it, and it burst into slime, and that was the beginning. But it was a big celebration. It was a big party, and lots of bleachers, as I recall. A lot of people showed up for it. There were hundreds of people there.
Yeah,
And
yeah. I wish it was televised. I don't know if it was or not, though.
oh God, yes, I'm sure it was actually. I don't think I've got the video, but I can go look in our. I might have an ancient video of it. I'm not sure.
Oh, do you have pictures from creating
I
to
do
that
have
day?
some pictures. I have a few pictures.
Oh, do you mind if I see them, use those for the project, or?
No, I'd be happy to. I need to pull them out and see what's worth scanning, and then I can scan a few of them for you.
Okay, perfect. Nowadays you are working for Think Design. That was you started that in '92. Is that correct?
Yeah, give or take. Yes.
Okay. Now, how's everything going with that? I mean, that must be a blast for you designing everything that we love for people every day. So.
It's really fun. It's not without its strangenesses and difficulties, but I really starting about 95, 96, I started doing museums and exhibits more than theater and theme park stuff. Although the theme park really continued.
Yeah.
I think into like 2001 or 2002, maybe even beyond that. But we started doing more and more museum work, projects and aquarium, and I really like doing those. When I did the geyser, it was basically just me. I designed it, and then I had an assistant who helped draft it.
Hmm.
But I pretty much supervised the whole thing, and that was pretty much a one man shop. And now we've got about 25 people working here, so it's a bit different. The projects are bigger, and they tend to be longer. Some of our projects are 8 or 10 years in the making.
Yeah, you mentioned
Like the 9/11 museum.
yeah, you mentioned theme parks. It's interesting because I think theme parks are really the basis for design and architecture. So I guess that's the popular destination to create everything for you guys. I'm assuming.
Well, I think theme parks have really become they're really iconic in the sense that
Hmm.
for a type of attraction, they Disney pretty much set the gold standard for it. Universal is really close runner-up, and in some cases has exceeded them in terms of quality. But the idea of this kind of really totally controlled environment that uses a fictional premise, or in the case of Epcot, a kind of imagined future premise to create a total experience for people, and that people would glom onto that as a destination. Was fairly revolutionary. They'd go there instead of going to a quote-unquote real place, but a place that really deals in fantasy and imagination. And it's very close to theater, except that it's something you walk through and experience in a kind of immediate way as a participant rather than an observer.
Yeah.
And of course, there's been a lot of breakthrough technology in it, and it's spread a lot of what started in theme parks is now done in museums. They influence each other, but the big the big sort of dividing line is, I guess, what I would call authenticity.
Yeah.
And even there, you can start to parse the word and say that, Disney is an authentic experience. It's just an authentic experience of something that is not real.
Yeah.
But it's certainly a real part of
Our
American
culture.
and global culture. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Disney, Universal, those rides are pretty much all we love, and the designment is what really captures our eyes. So it's really amazing just to see everyone created you all. So that's why I wanted to ask. Yeah.
Thanks. It's it's a it's a it's it's a great business to play in. You get a lot of people who play their whole lives
Mm-hmm.
and really make up some amazingly imaginative, interesting things. And the other thing you get is people who are extraordinarily proficient technically. The guys who figure out how to make rides work and figure out special effects, and the artists who create the rocks and the surfaces and the sort of imaginary places. It's really an amazing community of people.
Yeah. And very fun. I mean, everyone must be like a child at heart, I'm assuming. Or,
There's a lot of that, yes.
yeah.
There's of course also a whole corporate side to it, and people, I'm sure you've heard Imagineering referred to as Mauschwitz,
Yeah.
because it's such a grueling place to work, long hours, and it's hard work, and a lot is demanded of people, but they love doing it because it's the epitome of one type of
Yeah.
creative work.
Yeah. Definitely. When you found out the studios and the geyser were gone, they closed down, how did you react?
It was a kind of it was a real sense of loss. I had not been down there for probably 2 or 3 years when I found out, and it was not that there was any real loss for me, but it was sort of nice knowing it was there
Yeah.
and still doing its thing, and so I felt
Mm-hmm.
sad that it was gone and that era had ended. All things end, and I didn't expect it. It had a pretty good run.
Yeah.
Didn't expect it to last forever, but it was still it was poignant when it was gone. I
Yeah.
couldn't go see it anymore.
Yeah, definitely. It was, I think everyone loved it, really. Geyser, at the end of each show, the Knicks shows that were taped there, they would show the famous ending where the studios and the guys are outside the park, and I guess the advertisement was a place that we all wanted to go. So that's really,
Mm.
it was a huge loss.
The geyser was placed for the camera shot. That's how we
Yeah.
decided where it went. The
Oh,
camera shot with the Nickelodeon logo in the background was very carefully designed. Out of all the places we could have put it, we put it where we thought it would be the best camera shot. So,
oh wow. So it was your idea to come up with that, or?
well, we all knew that it was going to have a presence on TV, so that what happened on camera was
Mm.
in some ways more important than what happened in the park, because placement wasn't critical. There were certain things that were critical in the park,
Yeah,
but the placement was flexible. We just had to.
yeah, speaking of that, they were like at first it was alive, like outside real actual looking, then it just changed to like a painting of the studios, like a drawing of it. So, do you know who created that drawing?
No, I don't.
Oh
I
gosh,
don't.
darn it. Well, I think what do you think was the best thing about Nick Studios, really?
I think the best thing about it was, and Jerry Laybourne really set the tone, that it really was meeting kids where they live. It was was not trying to tell them how to behave or what to do. It was just engaging in being a kid, and that's what it was about. And it exulted in that, and it was delightful for that reason. I think a lot of people connected to it because they saw themselves in it immediately. Kids of all ages, including the adults, could really connect to that kind of exuberance and just being able to get covered in slime and enjoy it.
Yeah, definitely. It was fun, but also a learning experience to see how much actual production and you guys put into hard work and behind the scenes. And it was really just a place for kids and adults to gather and become the world's first headquarters for kids. That's what it was named.
Yeah, yeah. It was nice doing it in that way, and it was really gratifying to see kids react to the geyser too, because you never know how people
Yeah,
are going to respond to something, and that people really delighted in it, and that it became an icon, and
yeah.
that when a kid would hear I designed the slime geyser, that was really impressive.
hmm
It was really sweet. It was nice.
Yeah, I went to the studios in '94, and I remember being in front of the geyser, and like you said, it's become iconic. And how does that make you feel when kids just love being it's slime, basically?
Yeah, it feels great. It feels all good inside. Um, kids are hard to please sometimes. Sometimes they're really easy to please, but
hmm
it's great when you can really connect with.
Yes.
It's great when you can connect with large numbers of people, and especially with kids.
Yeah. I think adults got a kick out of it too, because when adults they're like, "Oh gosh, did I get slimed?" But then, but then they love it afterwards.
Exactly. I think one of the great things about the attitude of the network. It made it okay to be a kid even if you're an adult,
hmm
and giving people permission to just kind of giggle at stuff that's really stupid, or giggle at stuff that's messy or scatological. That was what it was about, and the geyser was very much in that vein. It was this big dumb machine that just squirted stuff all over itself and had a whole bunch of wiggling parts and pieces that in truth made no sense at all. Although in fact we built a good story around it.
Yeah,
But I
definitely.
mean, even just trying to find the damned hoses, getting those hoses were actually difficult to find. Getting something that was durable enough that it would wiggle but not break, and
Hmm.
clear, so that there could be some light coming through them. Every little bit of that thing was really thought through, and there was a great technical group that was building it.
Hmm. Yeah, 'cause it's very hot. I'm sunny in Florida, so I guess the sunlight must have sometimes ruined the shot, probably.
Yeah, the sunlight was a problem. And the other thing is this thing had, I think, 60 different pneumatic and hydraulic effects in it, and it was running. It ran a bunch. It had these big pumps inside that were squirting the slime out, and the slime wasn't just a big column of slime. It actually came out
Mm-hmm.
between two pipes, so that there was less volume of slime coming through, because the pumps would have had to be the size of a locomotive if
Yeah.
they'd
But
really squirted that much. Plus, that it would just be a mess. But it's a lot of wear and tear on the machinery, so they had to you know
yeah,
keep it maintained, and it had to be reliable.
but in the end it worked out really
Yeah, it did.
good.
It did.
Yeah. And all that slime, there was like a drainage beneath it, the geyser where it pumped out
Yeah,
into.
it was a recycling pump, so I think it had about 900 gallons of slime in it in toto,
Oh,
and it would just suck it out of the trough and blow it through the thing, and then just recycle it through.
yeah. You
So that's you'd see it start to churn when it was blowing slime, and that was the pump starting to suck in the slime from the trough around it.
Oh, that must have been really odd looking, though. Very.
Yeah, it would start to boil, and we figured that was just part of the show.
Mm.
And of course, they'd have to top off the slime every day because it would evaporate. And
Yeah.
they just add water in the morning.
Yeah. Would you like to see Nick Studios reopen? Do you think it should come back?
I think it should come back if they could make it come back. Yeah, I mean it was a great thing.
Yeah.
If,
A lot of people miss it. It's really, I think it was kind of a mistake getting rid of it. I think it would do not well as it did today, back in the day, sorry, but it would be great for kids today to experience the fun and the joy it brought to many people's lives. And that's why the project was created, this project.
yeah, well, it was created for that, and of course it was really viable commercially for a while. I don't know. Obviously, that equation changed at some point.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was good. It was really fun.
Oh, I forgot to ask you this. Do you know how high the slime pumped out into the air and the geyser?
I think the geyser itself was 17 feet high, and I think we went as much as 15 feet above it.
Oh gosh.
So it was about 30 feet at its maximum, and the pump was variable speed. So as the wind got higher, the slime came out lower, so that it wouldn't spray so far. And I don't think we ever used it at full power. We tested it at full power, and it shot out of there like a fire hose. But it would have all ended up sort of over on the building.
Yeah. I think
it had a serious pump. Actually, it had several pumps.
Yeah. What would have been great is if somebody just had a bucket and just captured all the slime and keep it for themselves for old time's sake. That would have been so great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or somebody landing on top of this geyser and just have the slime pumped out from the air above them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But well, I think that wraps things up. Yeah, I think that about covers it all. Really wanted to say thank you again for taking the time to do this. We're about to run out of time.
It's a pleasure. I really appreciate your interest, and I will dig up some photographs of it finished, and I've also got some photographs of it under construction if you want to.
Oh, okay, I would love to see those.
So we'll scan a few of them, and then if you need them at higher resolution, I can send them out. But.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Tom. Really.
All right, well, it's a real pleasure. It's great talking to you.
And the same to you. And
do you ever get up to this part of the universe anymore?
Universal, you said?
No, do you get up to this part of the universe, back to New York?
Oh gosh, I have not been back there in years. I haven't been back there in '03. I mean, I really want to go back though. I miss it.
Well, if you're up this way, let me know and stop in and say hi.
All right, cool. I will definitely do that.
All right.
All right, thank you, Tom.
You take care, and it'll take a couple of days to dig the photos out, but I'll get them dug out.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right.
Bye.
You take care. Bye.